give you an example. So today, um, um, my husband and I, we were working in the kitchen, and he just, I don't know what he was doing. We were just baking together because we're baking for Christmas. And I said, "You're not doing that right. This is how you need to do it." And he snapped back at me, and I'm like, "Wait, what? Wait a minute, why?" And so I stopped and I go, "Okay, you and I are on the same page, so we're not communicating very well." And he goes, "It's your tone. It's how you're communicating. It's the tone that you're giving me, and now it's causing me to react." And I said, "Okay, well, then you tell me what would show me a better way to communicate with you." And we've been married 33 years, and we're still trying to communicate. And especially when you've been married a long time, you start assuming a lot, which you should never do. Um, so I think it's all. I go back to what you guys were talking about, you and Dorcel, the last episode, and that was about communication. That's huge. I don't think you got to keep working on it constantly.
I like what you just broke down, giving an example of your, your personal life and how you were and he was cognizant of enough to articulate what it is that was a discrepancy at that particular time.
Hmm.
And that's a part of communication, addressing it when it needs to be addressed.
Hmm.
Sometimes walking away is addressing it.
Yes. Yes. And a lot of times that's with me because I get so heated. I go, "I can't talk to you right now because I have to calm down because my blood's boiling right now. So I'm gonna go have a timeout for a while. Just give me a couple hours just to calm down." And you know what? I learned this. Research shows that if you are engaged and it's escalating and you tell the other person to calm down, they will escalate even more. So it's better to just wait for them to calm down before you re-engage again. And that's worked for us. And but my husband is a red-blooded man all the way through. And if I engage and come at him the wrong way, he will shut down and it will take me days to try to figure it out what's
Right.
wrong with him. And I just learned that, and he's taught me that, men don't like to be told what to do. They don't like to be spoken at. And you mentioned that. You and Q were just nailing it the other time. It was beautiful because I'm like, "Oh my gosh, that's exactly what my husband says all the time." And I really think that women need to learn how to communicate with men. Step aside and get rid of their pride and just learn to listen. And we always want to correct our man and our husband or our partner. And because I really do think that we have the best intentions, but also if we've been hurt, we can come right at you. I mean, we can we can be nasty, and then it only pushes you further away from us as women.
Okay. So, with that being said, I relate to exactly what you're saying. And as a man in a relationship, I've learned how to navigate around uncomfortable situations. And sometimes walking away exacerbates the situation.
Mhm.
So, like I said, you have to discern what to do. And like you said, knowing being with someone for a long time, sometimes we overlook the small things and we overthink what it is that we should just go back to the basics in a relationship. It started with communication. It started with courtship,
Mhm.
calling you on the phone until you picked up. You
Mm.
know, I was
Yes.
coming at you until you were convinced that I was the guy to take you out.
Yes.
And all of that was a part of communication. It
Yes.
stops when we are in comfortable relationships and we don't up the ante in the relationship. We don't maintain the excitement of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the basics, how you met that person is exactly how they'll leave your life in some way, form, or fashion.
Well, I just get so excited when I listen to you because I, after being married 33 years, I can
Mhm.
go back and tell you two things that I don't ever hear couples talk about, and that is forgiveness, learning to forgive your partner. And I don't know, Mac, I don't know if I'm emotional and it's the Christmas season or what, but I just sharing this stuff with you, I can feel myself getting a little
Talk about it.
emotional
Talk about it.
because I think when you've been married so long and we live in a culture where it's all about feelings and emotions, and sometimes those feelings will eventually start to fade. And I really believe love, and even in a relationship and a friendship, it's love is an action. It's not a feeling because those feelings are going to fade. So it's doing those small things, exactly what you just said. And and being attentive. So it's forgiveness, forgiving that other person, but also being attentive and doing just the small things. And being attentive means doing little things that don't cost millions of dollars. And I like to, why I'm getting emotional, I like to tell you an illustration and illustrate this for you. Years ago, we had a big home, and I was raising two kids along with my husband, and I was working full time, and I was doing my MBA, and so was my husband. My husband was working on his MBA as well, and I was exhausted. And so the last thing I ever wanted to do at that point is be intimate. I just was so exhausted, and I
Right.
and I don't even know if my husband and I even had a chance to communicate at that point because we just were surviving.
Right.
And one night, I came to bed and my covers were turned down and my light lamp was on, and I thought, man, that was really nice of my husband Kurt to do that. And I thought, boy, that really meant a lot. And so what I didn't tell him because I wanted him to keep doing it because I thought if I tell him, he'll stop doing it. But every night it kept happening and I never caught him. And until now, here's where I'm going to probably get a little emotional, but I find one day it stopped. And so I approached him and I said, I just want you to know how much that meant to me. Just the fact that you turned my covers down at night, not yours, but mine, that you were thinking about me. And I said, that just meant the world to me. And he goes, sorry, I get emotional.
That's okay. It's okay.
He said, it wasn't me. He said, it's been your son. He's been sneaking in and doing that for you every night.
Wow.
And I was so blessed. And so he saw my reaction, and then we finally sold that house, and now we downsized. Now we live in a condo, and we've been here 8 years. And do you know that for 8 years he has done it every night?
Nice. Nice.
And I share that with you because it means the world to me. It means more to me than $1 million. And the reason why is because there was one night we had an argument and it was pretty intense and I was so upset. He went to bed and I've never caught him turning the sheets down, by the way, and my covers. I've never caught him.
Mhm.
And I waited for him to fall asleep and then I decided to go to bed. So I went to bed and I walked in and those covers were turned down and I knew that everything was going to be okay. Even though we had this argument, I knew that was his side to say, you know what, we're okay and I forgive you. And it was a beautiful thing. So I share that because I don't hear couples talk about that. And if we just learn to give to that other person, and sometimes we just need to learn, both of us just need to keep trying to outgive each other, and then it just makes the marriage even more wonderful and beautiful. So I'm sorry about getting emotional, but
No.
that's years of marriage, and I'm telling you something. Marriage is not easy. I like raising children. It is hard work. Hard work.
Mm-hmm. I love it because those little things that you mentioned, pulling down the covers, and after an argument, him just showing you the kind gesture of that little bit of vulnerability,
Mm-hmm.
that even though you attacked my manhood or I felt as though I was assaulted
Right.
as a man, I'm still going to treat my wife or my significant other with this love, just like that rose in front of you. I'm going to still give her that rose of love, and I don't have to say anything to you to consummate the situation. You already know what happened. I know what happened. I'm showing you that I'm going to be the bigger man, even though we didn't discuss the situation. I'm telling you that I concede.
Mm-hmm.
You take it from there.
Yes. And I will tell you, I'm an alpha female, so I have a very strong personality. So I will tell you, coming from an alpha female to a man is because we're very strong. There comes a point where if it's your partner, your husband needs, and if you fall out of line, it is extremely important for your spouse to say, a man, to say, okay, that's enough, and you cross that line, and your behavior is out of line, and I will not communicate with you until you can calm down and you can speak to me with respect. And I believe that a lot of women need to be spoken to like that too, because I have seen women lose it and have disrespected their partner, have disrespected their spouse. And I do think that it's about time that women, we have a tendency of just thinking about ourselves sometimes, and not all women. So I just want to clarify that, but there are a lot of women I've seen over the years, and I've worked with women that I'd have to say, you know what, you need to start respecting your husband and your partner and honoring him as a man, and make that really clear. And I really do that. I'll tell you, I've learned that the hard way, and he's taught me how to learn to respect him and other people, I mean other men, because my generation was raised to say, okay, we got the right to vote. Now we're going to prove to the world that we're strong and we're women and we can do anything we want. But ultimately, we want to be respected just like a man wants to be respected.
Man, you just keep coming up with high power stuff.
well, I'm really passionate. Plus, I've learned the hard way, but I also really love people, and my heart really breaks when I see couples fighting and in total conflict. There's something about me that just absolutely breaks my heart, because if you can get along as a couple and work together as a team, it is amazing what you can accomplish as a team. And sometimes you just maybe, I'll take this to the outside of the relationship, but even I've had some really great men that I've worked with in corporate America, and we're like a team and have accomplished a lot of great things. And it's because we both respect each other. And we honor them for their gifts and their talents, and it's mutual. And I've seen that with my trainer, I with Dorcel, my personal trainer. It's about respect, being respectful. Now, I haven't always done that with him, and I've had to come back to the table and apologize for being disrespectful. But if you both can learn to forgive each other and move on, it's a great working relationship. And if you do that in a marriage, it's a great marriage.
Right. Nice.
Sorry, I'm a chatterbox, but I'm passionate.
Well, it all plays hand in hand with where we're going with this, and the communication piece. That's we can go on and on and on. And I told Dorcel the last episode that we would pick up on communication. So this is a great segue into where we're trying to go with the last week's conversation. And as far as
can I interject real quick?
Sure.
I'm sorry, I don't want to disrespect you and cut you off. I also think I was talking to some individuals yesterday, and I feel very strongly that men and women are so different, and we are different in how we communicate as well, and even in the intimacy part. And one gentleman said, he goes, I don't want to get married again. I just want to be single. And he goes, and I said, well, why is that? And he goes, well, because women get so emotional. They go off their emotions and their feelings all the time, and we just compartmentalize everything. And I go, it's true. And so I said, I agree with you on that. And I think that's why you work together as a team and you communicate with each other, because if you can do that and work together, it's beautiful. But if you don't, I mean, I tell you, it can be hell for some people if they just can't work through that.
Well, you said, once again, you hit a great point. Compartmentalizing things, that's something that most men who've reached a state of confidence. See, you have to, talk about the different type of men, and be specific in which man you're talking about. Now, your husband, he seems like an alpha male, very determined, strong man, probably educated, MBA, so there's different levels of men. Okay. And then you have the guys who have lack of education, then they have comprehension issues. So therefore they can't emotionally understand you. So because of psychological issues, which inhibits them from understanding someone in a long-term relationship, whereas in conflicts come up, and they have so many past psychoses and psychological distresses in their lives that they really don't know how to respond to certain situations. And where I'm going with that, where I'm coming from with that is, if you go back to the hierarchy, Maslow's hierarchy, Abraham Maslow, like I started to mention last week,
right?
There's basic needs that we have to accomplish before we move on to be that self-actualized person. And the most basic of those needs is physiological. Food, shelter, clothing.
Right.
If a child comes into the world and they are, uh, I would say, satiated with these essential things, if they have these essential things that enhances their ability to become a whole, a complete human being in the sense that they reached every level in that hierarchy, then they have a greater chance of success in society, no matter what's going on in society. Okay, so I know I went a little scientific for people, but sometimes you have to go to the books and just give up some proven theories, because these theories that have been proven, and let those be a guide, because we know that everything is not etched in stone. When you're dealing with this, the
Hmm.
human mind, then it's like a universe out there,
Right.
in here.
Right.
So where I'm going is that each man is different. Each woman is different. I don't like to generalize unless I have concrete data that says that all women are overly emotional.
Hmm.
And they like to argue. They're very argumentative and don't listen. Okay,
Hmm.
I mean, if I would love to say that in an argument, with with my guys, but I can't say that with substantial documentation or evidence, nor have I even have the desire to even check that stat,
Right.
because individualistically, I work on myself and how I interact with other human beings in the world, whether it be a male or female, and I'm not talking, of course, we're not talking about sexually. We're
Right.
talking about on just a personal interaction level, or a commonality. You just mutually meeting someone at the gym, and just being friendly, jovial, cordial. Hey, how you doing? There's nothing wrong with that. And then if we get into a conversation, then we know that there's boundaries to that conversation. We can open ourselves up to disrespect as well, male or female. So, like I said, how you go into that relationship is how it usually ends. If you
Yes.
came into it with an MBA, you're gonna go out of it.
Wow. You know what? That was beautifully said. And I can tell you have a lot of experience working with people because
Yeah.
that you nailed it. And I wanted to share something I read the other day I thought was really powerful is that sometimes people come into the world that are 10 gallon people. That means that they have the capacity to love with 10 gallons. They can give 10 gallons of love away.
Mhm.
But there are some people that come in with a pint size, and maybe you've heard this analogy before, and that let's say somebody there was a parent that came in that they didn't have a parent. They were single and they had to raise their children by themselves, and so they can only give a pint size amount of love. But that child had the capacity to love with 10 gallons. And so the child who has that capacity to give, and I'll give you an example, who can do that is Oprah. Oprah is one of those women that just has that capacity just to give and give and give. And she was raised by a mother, and this was told to her by a mother that only had a pint size amount to give because of being a single mom and she didn't have any money and she was trying to raise her. And so Oprah had to take a look at that and say, accept her mom for that and love her for her ability and capacity to give what she had and honor her for that. And I thought that was beautiful because I think sometimes we have an expectation that somebody should keep giving this love to us, but they can't give it because they don't have it. And when you understand that, you can also have a better relationship with understanding where that person's coming from in their past,
Right.
you know?
And you're very cognizant or perceptive of people in life as well. Because just understanding that point you just made would help you understand that you can't change people. No
No.
matter how much you may want them to be cookie cuttered, your pattern,
Mhm.
they're not going to fit the fabric,
Mm-mm.
because human beings are not made alike, not even Siamese twins. There's a
And
deep. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
it doesn't that just that statement that you said alone, isn't that amazing that we can even get along as well as we do? I'm absolutely shocked because we come together and we're come from different backgrounds and different upbringings, and some are raised by single parents, some are put up for adoption, some, I worked in a group home for many years, so I
Mhm.
was a parent for a lot of adolescents who never had a parent. So,
Mhm.
and how, they're struggling with relationships and love and feeling worthy and feeling a person of value when they didn't even have parents around to tell them that they were loved.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, and like you said, that's the capacity of love that they have to give. If you don't know what love is, I want you to show me. That was just a joke, but there's reality in that, in those words. Okay. And if I show you how to accept love, if I show you how to accept love by me being the example, use me as the example. I'm going to show you head first into this thing. Aside from telling you, I'm going to show you by my action. I'm going to show you how to embrace love. And if the person doesn't get it after that, then maybe their soul is not of the God I worship.
Mhm.
Because the God I love and worship and praise is a God of love. And
Wow.
anyone who is touched by him can and has the capacity to love and
Mhm.
give love.
Mhm.
So,
And
see,
wasn't
I don't want to get too deep.
I know, and you know what? I can tell you are. I think it's fun to talk to you because I know you get it. I can tell you have a lot of experience working with people, and it's just fun to
Yes.
talk to you. It
And
really is.
and I'm sorry, but look, the reason why I was a counselor in New York City for 10 years, okay, in the South Bronx, 161st, 170th in McCombs Road, right there in the South Bronx, surrounded with nothing but gangs, drugs, prostitution, anything that you can think of was happening and still happening right there in the South Bronx. I worked there for close to 10 years, counseling. I'm not going to say the worst of the worst, because no matter what where you are in your life, if you're actively a mica patient or if you're active in your addiction, that doesn't make you a bad person.
Right.
You just have
Right.
a disease, you have a problem. So
Mhm.
I was the fixer. I was a
Mhm.
counselor, supervisor for 2 years before I left. But that's what I did, and that's how I know how to communicate, or not just communicate, but work with people, no matter what their issues are.
And Mac, didn't you find that, when you worked with individuals that were using drugs or whatever their form of vice is, didn't you just find that they were hurting so bad that it was just a way for them to numb themselves? And because I've worked in that area as well, and I listen to their past and think, holy Moses, a lot of us would be on drugs as well, and so they're lucky to be alive, and that was just their coping mechanism, just to numb the pain because the pain was so great and so deep, and we all have that. We all have a way of numbing the pain because we all struggle. There's none of us are getting out of this life alive without any pain and any heartache and hurt. And we turn to, if it could be social media, it can be turned to, sex, drugs, whatever it can be. And what I
Don't forget rock and roll.
that's right, there we go. And so that's a beautiful thing actually. And I have to say that I have to I respect those individuals a lot because they're willing to fight and they're willing to get through their situations, and our society really criticizes and um, judges them, but they're doing only what they know how to do, and they're doing the best job that they possibly can on their own without any help until they can get some help.
um, Coping mechanisms.
Yeah.
Everyone has one.
Yes.
It's innate uh,
Uh-huh.
from birth.
Yep.
Some of us learn how to deal with trauma in different ways, forms, of fashion. So many I don't even want to, get into the details, except
Mhm.
for in another panel.
Right.
And when you're in a relationship with a person who has a past, whereas and they were able to pacify their pain, their hurt, their anguish, and use external measures to inhibit the pain, they are that, however long they used whatever they used to dull, numb, inhibit, prevent them from feeling what
Mhm.
their reality at that point in time, however long they did that or indulged in that, that's how far back times two they have to work to get to the maturity level of a mature adult who should be at a level, who should be at a particular level at that age in their peer group.
Wow.
So if you happen to come across someone like that who's an ex-addict, alcoholic, whatever, you have to understand this is where you have to teach them how to love.
Mm.
You have to get into their world. Don't worry about them trying to figure you out. You trying to show them that you're this grandiose, savior. You can help them out. Just listen to me. No. What I want you to do is just watch me. Look, listen, and observe. Keys that we don't use, factors that and principles that we think are so far beneath us because we think that we have the keys, we have the answers to everything. No, sometimes you
So how
just
did
have.
you do that? How did you do that? How did you show somebody to love? I think what you just said is profound, and Mac, that is huge, man. If people get that, because I'm wondering how you did that. How did you do that?
Well, I can only show, like I said, by my example, right?
Yeah.
Kindness, kindness,
Mm.
kindness is the first key and the first step to showing someone how to love. Be kind.
Mm.
And humility. You have to have a certain degree of humility.
Mhm.
Okay. Those two elements right there for me work. And you have to listen. Be a keen listener. Don't be so much a talker. Be a listener. Because most people who go through pain, what do you think they want?
They wanna be listened to and understood. Huh. We don't do that now, do we? We're in a society where it's all about me, 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 me. How can you give to me? I wanna look good on social media. I wanna be famous. I wanna be wealthy. And wow, that's beautiful, Mac. That is really powerful. Yeah. And you know what? I wonder if we start doing that and start being kind, we could bring people together and we could create unity.
It, there's pseudo kind and then there's sincere kind. I'm only kind to you because you have a paycheck for me. No, that's not the kind of kind I'm talking about. The
Mhm.
kind I'm mentioning or referring to is the kind that comes from your spirit, that you feel a kindred spirit and you want to reciprocate what you feel good. Sometimes we can reciprocate some bad stuff, but we want to give people some good. We want people to feel good like we do,
Mhm.
you know? And when you come to a point when you can just say, you know what, it's not about, me just being selfish with this joy, and I can give this joy to others. My cup runneth over. So you have to, where does it go?
Mm.
You want to fill up another cup and pass it to your neighbor. See, we are so concerned with our own isms and schisms that we forget to really take an introspective look at us. And we think that when we go to bed at night, that when we, rehash the day and what problems we had in our lifetime, we think that we're taking an introspective look at who we are. That's
Mm.
a superficial look at who we are. We're
Mhm.
painting a narrative of who we want us to be.
Mhm.
Okay. So we can justify and rationalize who we are today. We as human beings have fragile, and we have this fragility about us, emotional fragility. We're just fragile about everything. We're probably the most fragile creatures on the earth. Even animals, even lower, even lower primates have a tougher, tougher skin than us.
My dog does too. I mean, when she wakes
Yes,
up, yeah, yeah.
yeah. So,
And I can get
so
mad at her and she'll turn around and just love me back. I'm like, wow, I could really do that. I could really learn from my dog.
yeah,
Yeah, that's
we
beautiful.
because we overthink. We overthink. Don't think what he's thinking. just, let the relationship be what it is for a while. You have to you have to do inventory. It depends on what you're trying to do, first and foremost. If you're trying to work on a relationship or repair a relationship, get over crises that you have in a relationship, because all of those things do happen in long-term relationships at one time or another, or sometimes compiled on top of each other.
Yep.
Financial crises, the kids gone, one son went to jail, daughter got pregnant, car got repossessed, mortgage is late,
Yep.
all the car notes are behind.
Yeah.
You got to lean on, so it, and in a relationship, all of those things can come to a boiling point. Whereas you guys, we can take it out on each other,
Yes.
not knowing that it's the external forces that
Right.
are making us feel this way. And then don't forget work. We all have to work. So we have a social network at work. And sometimes we don't get along with our boss, or the guy whose desk is right next to mine, and he's just, antagonizing me every day I come to work.
Mm-hmm.
So we bring some of this stuff home.
Yes.
And we transition right into home from work and don't even have a cool off period. We don't take time we don't even stop at the door long enough to take our shoes off before we walk in the house.
Yes.
So we bring that right to the kids, right to the wife, right to the dog, right to the cat. And the dog is just chilling. He's like, what happened? I'm just laying here waiting for him to come home and give me a dog treat.
Oh, yeah.
And you kick him out the way. So, you have to observe people's character, their actions, and most times we don't do a background check on people, sometimes we don't do it, on our mate, we just go along with it. Okay. He sounds like a good guy. He hangs out with this person. Well, hey, he's a good person, but hey, there's a backstory to the backstory to the back to the backstory.